Good morning, dear children. In our last history class, we have learned the sources of history, meaning of sources, literary sources, types of literary sources, native and foreign literary sources, and examples for both native and foreign literary sources. And so on we learned in our previous classes. Today, in this session, let us learn about the archaeological sources of history. At first, let us understand the meaning of archaeological sources. Archaeological sources are basically the material evidence like historical buildings, coins, inscriptions, monuments, and other remains that gives important and detailed informations pertaining to a particular period. Where can we get these archaeological sources? Historians find archaeological sources during excavations. They are available not only on the surface of the earth but also hidden deep in the depth of the earth. Excavations means the process of digging the earth by using scientific method to find evidences. There are many things submerged in the earth used by people in the ancient times. These tools and evidences are more helpful to rewrite the history. Children, all of us heard about Indus Valley civilization. The civilization came to light only due to the process of excavation. During excavations, ruins of buildings, inscriptions, coins, terracotta pieces, bangles, seals, beads, bone pieces, metal and others have been found. These are analyzed by applying various scientific methods to understand the life of people of those time. These archaeological sources are very important in history because they verify the history. It is important to be able to confirm history with physical archaeological evidence. All these archaeological data is valuable for the simple fact that help us to make history more tangible and substantiates that history. Archaeological sources are divided into four types. They are inscriptions, coins, monuments, and other ruins. Inscriptions. Inscriptions means engraved writings. Engraved writings means carved writings. You can see these writings in the walls of temples, some of the pillars of temples or buildings, rocks and stone slabs. Inscriptions are written on stone, rock, metal, ivory, terracotta, and other materials that last longer. Inscriptions are more reliable as these have a direct relationship with the then events. These inscriptions provide information about political, social, cultural, economic, administrative aspects during the ancient time. We have many inscriptions in our country. Ashoka's inscriptions are the earliest inscriptions found in India. Most of his inscriptions are in Brahmi script. Their language is Prakrit. Thousands of inscriptions are found in Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, Sanskrit, and Prakrit languages. Samudragupta's Allahabad pillar inscription, Immadi Pulakeshi's Aihole inscription, Kharavela's Hadikumba inscription are the important inscriptions which provide informations and military achievements of kings during that period. The Uttaramerur inscription narrate the rural administration of Chola kings. Apart from this, many political, social, cultural, economic, educational, religious aspects are reflected in these inscriptions. Coins. Students, coins are familiar for all of us. In our day-to-day life, we use large number of coins for different kind of transactions. The coins minted from the ancient time also help us to write the history. Though the coins are small in shape, they contain many important aspects. Numismatics is the study of coins. It is important for the study of history, especially ancient history. The study of coins confirms, modifies, and even amplifies history. To a great extent, the political and economic history of a country is constructed by numismatics, and historical facts are very often confirmed or rejected by numismatics findings. Many facts connected with administration, historical geography, and religious history of ancient India are revealed to us by numismatics. These coins helpful in understanding the geographical extent of the ruler's kingdom who minted the coins. They also aid us in knowing the language of administration, titles that kings possessed their region, economic conditions of the times, and metal technology in vogue of the particular kingdom. Kushana Emperor Vima-Kadphises is said to be responsible for introducing gold coins to India. That was around 100th century. These coins were minted in different metals like gold, copper, silver, lead, and tin. Samudragupta, one of the most important ruler of Gupta dynasty, had minted 7 different types of gold coins. Based on the pictures on those coins, it is said that Samudragupta was a lover of music and he had conducted Ashwamedha Yaga. Gautami Putra Satakarni got the name of Napana erased on his coins and engraved his name on them. This supports the view that Gautami Putra Satakarni had defeated Napana. The availability of Roman coins in Bengaluru proves the fact that this region had a trade link with the Romans 2000 years back. Monuments. Children, many of us have a wonderful habit of traveling many places. Many people like to visit historical buildings and monuments. Taj Mahal, Ajanta Caves, Qutub Minar, Mysore Palace, Amritsar. These are the famous monuments in our country. These monuments are the major source to write history. The study of monuments help us to understand social, political, economical, religious and cultural conditions of people in ancient time. Mehrauli Iron Pillar. The Iron Pillar of Delhi is a structure 23 feet and 8 inches high with 6,000 kilogram of weight, probably constructed by Chandragupta II, is one of the best evidence of the maturity of the science and technology existed in that time. The pillar was almost 2500 years old, but still there is no sign of rust in that pillar. The famous Taj Mahal tell us the story of love. The Vijayastamba is an imposing victory monument located in Rajasthan. The tower was constructed by Mewar king Rana Kumbha in 1448 to commemorate his victory over the combined armies of Malwas and Gujarat led by Muhammad Khilji. This tower tells us the victory of Rana Kumbha. The cave pictures and engravings of elephant, Ellora and Ajanta narrates the mastery over paintings and sculptures during that time. The temples of Aihole and Pattadakallu explain the evolution of Indian temple architecture. Nalanda, Takshashila, Ujjaini, and madrasas built by Muhammad Gawan in Bidar narrate the importance given to education during those times. A large number of forts, mainly constructed by Shivaji and Srirangapatna, explains the accomplishments in the areas of defense technology. These monuments throw light on then contemporary religious aspects, technology, economic growth, scientific knowledge, and creativity achieved. Other ruins. Ruins are the remains of a building or a city that has been destroyed or that is in disrepair or a state of decay. In our country, we can see the parts of something that remain after it has been severely damaged or weakened. These ruins help historians to reconstruct history. They help us to understand socio, cultural, economic, political and religious life of then people. Historians are able to find many ruins like terracotta figures, bangles, beads and seals produced in ancient time during their excavations. These ruins can also help us to understand the food habits and pattern of business of those times. By applying carbon-14 dating procedure on the biological ruins found in these sites, one can arrive at the accurate period of ruins. The excavations conducted at Arikamedu and Pattanam in Tamil Nadu, a large number of evidences were found that speak of commercial contact between South India and Romans. Like this, the remains found at excavations tell many things that were lost over a period of time.
The Lascaux cave paintings and the Turin Shroud. The age of both has been determined using carbon-14 dating, the measurement of the activity of carbon-14 contained in organic matter in order to discover its age. An organism contains both carbon-12 and carbon-14. Radioactive, the amount of carbon-14 is constant, thanks to exchanges with the atmosphere while the organism is alive. When it dies, no more carbon-14 is assimilated. It gradually begins to decay at a constant rate. The natural radioactivity slowly declines. Carbon-14 has a half-life of 5,730 years. It was for discovering the chronometer principle of carbon-14 that won US chemist Willard Libby the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 1960. Scientists determine the quantity of carbon-14 by measuring the radioactivity of the sample or by counting the number of carbon-14 atoms using mass spectrometry to obtain the carbon age of the object. This enables them to determine the moment when the organism died by comparing the level of carbon-14 with the level of carbon-12, which remains stable. Used in archaeology, seismology and volcanology, climatology, agronomy and oceanography, this technique is very precise, but it has its limits. The sample must be under 50,000 years old. The quantity of carbon-14 is too small, and it only works on living organisms, not, for example, on rocks.